Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And at the moment, from what I've seen, CCP is hard at work on getting more services running in the Upwell structures like the Citadel and like the engineering complex. The first one on the menu is going to be insurance. I think that's a pretty nice step forward, especially in systems that don't have stations. If you want to get insurance, you'd still have to go to a station at the moment. But what I'm really looking forward to would be like a repair ability within the station. So a right click, get repair quote on your active ship. That would be pretty amazing to have as well. But yeah, they're fully working on developing all of those features at the moment. We are here for the market, of course. Quick look at what I'm testing, going to check at the end here of EVE Talk, but as always we will start with plex, and that's going to be at 1 minute. There we go. Now we can see that plex is still going up a little bit, 1,087,000,000 for the sellers, 1,015,000,000 for the buyers. We're gonna do this EVE Talk with the full 1 year chart this time, so this is completely extended. Let's make sure that it is. There we go. And what I do like here is that you can clearly see the previous spike in February up to 1.27 billion. Then the bottom in June at 850 million. So that was definitely a great buy opportunity. And now the run up again towards the Ascension expansion with a high again of 1.23 billion. A bit of a fallback after the Ascension expansion, and here the latest increase in price back from 1 billion to 1.5 billion. It's not that much just yet, but the question is going to be, does it have a lot of momentum? And yeah, it could, if the inflationary effects from the very high ISK faucets at the moment continue. We might go up again, but we're right in between the bottom and the top. So at the moment, I'm not making a move on plex. If we reach 1.2 billion again, I'm going to sell the ones that I still have left. If we go back down, then I'm waiting for 900 million, and I'm going to wait for a new buy opportunity. This could still take a long time, of course. You can see here that February, March, April, May are all months where activity slowly decline, and then through the summer we tend to have lower plex prices because of lower activity. So it's definitely possible that I'm not going to touch plex personally, you know, to buy or to invest in until the summer, until a buy opportunity shows up. Because personally, I think that it's not looking too good for plex to go up to 1.2 billion unless something special would happen during FanFest. But FanFest is usually also a time for sales. So April, right here, you can see, especially this big dip here, is probably going to have been something like a sale. So FanFest can still swing either way. There could be great demand all of a sudden if something really interesting is offered, but it's also usually a time of plex sales, which will only increase the pressure on the prices of plex. So this is what I'm looking at the moment, right where we don't want to be if you're looking to sell or to buy, and I will have to wait for the right opportunity. The multiple pilot training certificate next, very similar chart, of course, just that the peak in November was actually higher than, almost higher. Here we still have a day at 1.32 billion. Here we have a day at 1.28 billion. And yeah, it's basically the same as plex, of course, with us going back up a little bit in the last few weeks. The question is, again, how much momentum? And personally, I don't think we'll reach those highs again. One thing that I forgot here, we'll quickly check on the perimeter action. Well, they're still sticking around here. 1,045,000,000 for the sellers, 1 billion. Let's take a look here. That's in perimeter. Yeah, 1,020,000,000 on the buyer side in perimeter as well. The volumes, well, that actually looks like a decent amount, especially if you look at the last 24 hours. Just look at that, 2 full pages, maybe even more of them being sold in perimeter in competition with one another. This should definitely help to stall the increase in price here, to be honest. Considering the volumes coming in, here in the last 24 hours, well, there are some. They're going from 1,095,000,000, let's say, to 1,087,000,000, but it's a lot coming in perimeter, and this should have some influence on what happens in JITA as well. So I think that we'll start to really hesitate, maybe even see the first signs of pressure pretty soon. Body resculpt next. You can see it's, well, you have some similarities. You here have a peak in March and then again in November, but it's definitely its own little market with wildly swinging volumes here. 38 in a day, which was basically buying out the entire market, but on a lot of days we have less than 10 of them being sold. It's very tricky to make actual money on these kinds of volumes. Still, we see the effect from Plex, of course, a November peak, then a decline, and now a little bit of a recovery in the last few weeks, but nothing that is coming close to the previous peak. And here in March, though, we don't have this February-March high that is similar to this one. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but you can see the influence of Plex show in this chart of the pilot's body resculpt certificate. Skill extractors, of course, very closely tied to Plex, and that's going to be a bit less than a year, I think. I'm not sure if they've been out a year already or not. That's 9/2. Nope, as you can see, first date is actually February, so we'll have to wait until the 9th or the 10th of February to actually get a full 1 year chart on skill extractors. Still, you can see that peak, then the decline with the bottom in June, again a peak back up in November with the Ascension expansion, then the rapid decline, a little bit of a recovery, but the hesitation at the tail end. Skill extractors at the moment are selling for, all of this is in station. Yeah, this is a bit surprising, right? You have all of those Plex that are much cheaper in the perimeter station. Here, oh, actually, I should do this then. Yeah, you have some here as well. Decent amount. Definitely a lot less than what it was with compared to the amount of sell orders for Plexes. So let's stick to the JITA station from this point on. 246 million for the sellers. It's also only 242, so the margin is much smaller. 246 million for the sellers, 240 million for the buyers. Pretty narrow margin here. I think it's another indication that they're hesitating, that there's action on both sides, but there is, especially in the last 24 hours, you can see here again, more than this is still 24 hours. Yeah, this is gonna be half the sell orders, probably 3 full pages of skill extractors coming in the last 24 hours, pulling them from 250 million to 246 million, but it's so many of them that it's going to be very tricky for the market to actually push back up to above 250 million. It'll take some time to absorb all of that. Skill injectors next, that could be a bit more interesting. Well, it has a similar chart. What I like about this one is that it's more volatile. So if you're looking for maybe a shorter term investment opportunity, it's a bit of a gamble. I think it's more of a gamble than Plex, but what I think can happen from time to time is something like a release coming with new skills, a change to skills, a new ship that people would all of a sudden need to focus some skills on. Then I think you could get this increased demand all of a sudden from a CCP change that will not show up on the Plex chart, but will be a great opportunity to trade here, for instance, from 590 million all of a sudden up to 630 million. You know, if you'd bought at this bottom and then if you had the opportunity to sell here for like 10 days, you could have made some money on that. Here again, bottom at 550 and then a top, which is of course the November top at 640. But yeah, it's slightly riskier, I think. If you look at this decline here, which is much sharper than what was happening with Plex, then you had a recovery, and we've basically not moved since December on the skill injector market. It's a bit more risky than gambling in Plex if you're looking for predictable patterns, but of course with higher risk comes potentially higher reward as well. And here again, the chart only starts on February 9th. So a couple of weeks and then we'll have full charts on the skill injectors and extractors as well. Moving on to some minerals. 920. Let's do that. Let's take titanium and then let's see if we need to repair the chart a little bit. No, it's apparently keeping the maximum January 23rd. It's the 21st, so I'm somehow missing a couple of days. well, those 2 days won't really matter all that much, I think. So we can clearly see that the Ascension expansion with the changes of mining ships, especially the Orca and the Rorcal, have caused a really drastic shift in the price of titanium. We were holding on pretty nicely, starting the year at 6.5 here in April, which is around FanFest. I think we still had a pretty decent price as well of around 6 ISK. Maybe a war, April war, yeah, I think so. World War B might have caused an increase here in demand as well. Then a slow decline as activity declined throughout the summer. Then we picked back up a little bit towards the winter, which is normal as well. So the average 6 ISK was definitely very much possible. But now Ascension expansion, changes to Rorcal especially, have caused us to find a new normal average of around 5 ISK for the titanium market. Right now 507 for the sellers, 494 for the buyers. If you remember last week we were just a bit below 5 ISK and now we're just a bit above that. So this is definitely the range that we're trading in, around 5 ISK at the moment. You can see some decent supply coming in, all of, yeah, full front page, including 500 million, and 50 million, 1 million, another 600 million, another 400 million as the latest two coming in, trying to take advantage of the slightly higher prices just in the last day or two. So you can see once we go above 5 ISK, it's supply that tends to win out over demand. If we dip below 5 ISK, people become a bit more hesitant, and that's when the buyers tend to try to stock up a little bit more. As a result, we'll go back up, and we're basically hovering around 5 ISK for titanium at the moment, and we're at the higher end right now. Next up, we've got pyrites. So that is well below 7 ISK. That's really not good, because we can, even on this chart, on the 1 year chart, you can see that we again have a little bit of a trend break going to a 1 year low. And here, very stable start of the year at around 11 ISK, which was a normal price for pyrite. Bit of a dip in the summer, but here again with the Ascension expansion, you can see that drastic decline towards a new price range, which is considered normal by the markets, I guess because of the much higher availability, the higher supply that comes of more potential mining at the moment. I still feel like, although the Orca can be matched by a full yield machina, you're not going to be ganked as easily in a machina, in an Orca as in a machina, as in that paper thin full yield machina. And as a result, people are going to be switching to the Orca because it is safer. It also means less trips if you're doing it solo. As a result, overall, I still think that the more people get into the Orca, it will still mean higher volumes for the mining in HiSec as well. So 7 ISK, yeah, is going to become our new average range. And unfortunately, at the tail end here, you can see us dipping well below 7 ISK, even on the 5-day moving average. Yet another trend break. We're now at all-time lows, 1 year lows. It's extreme for pyrite. 678 for the sellers, 613 for the buyers. So 6 ISK for pyrite is basically the normal price for titanium before. So if we look at that from a volumes perspective, it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty crazy to see that basically pyrite is currently trading at what titanium used to trade at. Next up, we have Mexalon. That one is doing a lot better. Even on the 1 year chart, you can see that we are in really good territory at the moment, which puts these two charts, like titanium and pyrite, quite a bit into perspective. Mexalon has been the bottleneck when it comes to volumes, but what I'm seeing here, to my surprise, is start at 60 ISK, an increase in price here in May, June. That's quite substantial. I couldn't really time that with a war, especially not a May up to August war. So a very strong summer basically for Mexalon. Bit of a decline and a bit of a comeback in November. Then of course we also have that serious decline, that pushback from the Ascension expansion. But to my surprise, a massive increase in price in the month of January, starting, let's see, what day is that? Half December, up to now like 75 ISK at basically a 1 year high, and a great price for Mexalon. So if you're actively mining to make liquid ISK at the moment, you of course want to focus on your Mexalon sources. 74.87 for the sellers, really good price. Supply, to my surprise, is not even that high. You can see in the last 24 hours we don't have that much coming in. and then the buyers are at 70.8. Would this be a perimeter shift? Let's see. A little bit, you can see, well, no, actually it's not just perimeter. We have 7, 10. You have to go pretty far away in order to find much better prices. Well, comparatively 71 ISK is still decent for Mexilon compared to what Tritanium and Pyrite are doing. So yeah, quite a surprise, and this anomaly could indicate that at some point Tritanium and Pyrite might make a bit of a comeback. If Mexilon can do it, why can't the other two? You know, having 11 to 7 ISK, which is so low, historically speaking, and then having Mexilon still be this really good price. I think especially on a major war with some super losses and things like that, we could see a bit of a comeback for Isaac Minerals. But at the moment, Isogen is in the same boat. You can see we start at 100 ISK, we end at around 60 ISK, loss of 40%, just like that. I think it's the same for Tritanium and Pyrite, you know, 30-40% loss because of the changes here in November. You can see that Isogen was struggling to maintain this really good price of 100 ISK for a long time. Here we went as low as 88, bit of a comeback in May again, which is the same with Mexilon. Something must have happened there that I can't remember right now, but then we have this summer slump here going down as well to 80, bit of a comeback before the Ascension expansion, but then of course we have the roller coaster down to less than 60 ISK, the 1 year low, and now we're playing with that price range yet again, with sellers at 60.82 and buyers at 60 ISK. The margin has closed, so with enough demand, there is decent demand here. If you look at the last 2 days or so, we could close that gap at 60 ISK. We could stop the bleeding, but you know, with a lot of supply, all of a sudden this could get broken, and then psychologically we could be in the same boat as Pyrite, where even the 5-day moving average is now heading for an all-time low. So not a great time to be mining for Isaac Minerals. I'm not selling anything except for my Mexilon, and to be honest, it's just yeah, wait and see. I'm slowly building up those stocks. I'm also compressing a little bit and selling that if I feel like, well, I definitely want to have the ISK for my effort right now, then I would say go for compression. But on the other ones, I'm basically stocking them up, waiting for a better sell opportunity. Noxium next, what I'm calling the in-between mineral, because it's available in HiSec, but only in certain spaces, and then it's available in abundance in all other spaces. So it's a bit trickier to say that this is influenced by only HiSec mining or only nullsec mining changes. This is influenced by everything, and previously it got a bit of a double whammy, because 475, which you can see we started at a year ago, was actually already really low historically speaking because of a mineral rebalance that happened in nullsec probably a year before that. I would say we went from like double the price here. We lost like 50% in the year before here, from 800, 900 to 475, and now you can see here that again on the Ascension expansion, a bit of pressure throughout the summer, but then on the Ascension expansion, once again heading for all-time lows, 360, 370. Sellers are at 377, buyers are at 359. Very low prices for Noxium historically speaking. But all of this has an explanation. So we have a mineral rebalancing that cut the price down to 475, and now of course we have the changes to mining in Ascension, which is cutting the price down once again, because, well, there is a lot of Noxium being mined from nullsec. If you don't find good sources for Zydrine and Mexite anymore, next one on the menu is going to be more Noxium, and as a result, I think that it's here to stay quite a bit more than possibly the other HiSec minerals. If we look at Mexilon, if we take that one as an indicator that this may be an overreaction in Tritanium and Pyrite, we'll have to see. Next up, we've got nullsec minerals. It's pretty interesting doing this on a 1-year chart. Let's see if we can spot anything interesting here. We definitely can. This was mineral rebalance territory a year later, 1100 up to 1400. Normal prices for Zydrine. You can see a decent amount of volatility with again a bump up here in May, which is quite interesting. 1200 going back up to almost 1300. Then mostly on speculation, and then finally at the drop of the Ascension expansion, we had the exact opposite happen. So for nullsec, people thought, well, they're going to go crazy with the Nurur call, and it's going to be so much supply that we are going to crater down to less than 1,000 ISK. And even from here, you know, you can still see that even here we had high volumes. So people were still like, you know, should I still buy at 1,000 ISK? Should I still dump everything at 1,000 ISK and maybe wait for 960? Should I still sell and maybe wait for even less than that? But look at what actually happened here. We went back up to 1300, very close to the previous high point. So before the Ascension expansion changes, this again puts everything a little bit in perspective. Although there may be more abundance in nullsec, they're just not going to export all that much to Cheetah in order to make liquid ISK. They'd rather use that themselves and turn that into capitals and super capitals. And as a result, here in Cheetah, we're back up to almost 1300, which is a good, respectable price for Zydrine, I would say. And let's see if we can get the orders. 1209 for the sellers, 1142 for the buyers. We're back down a little bit after that high point, but we're definitely still in normal territory, so it's looking okay. Megasite, very similar chart. In fact, going to a 1 year high of almost 1600 not that long ago is a strong indication that the November scare of the Ascension expansion may not be as bad as people make it out to be. So I'm curious to see if we'll ever see a jump back for titanium, pyrite and isogen. But again, 1 year high not that long ago at 1600 was a great sell opportunity. I bought here a little bit and on this downtrend, and I sold here on the uptrend not that long ago, making some ISK here. On a non-investment, that's the crazier part. I was not looking to make ISK on a trade in Megasite. I was looking to buy Megasite and Zydrine to actually use in my production, and then it turns out that's the one that's actually making me a few 100 million on the trades, which is quite a surprise, but well, I'll take it. It shows that it's not always possible to, or almost never possible to predict what the market is going to do. Here we have Morphite next. This was Citadel expansion spike, incredible opportunity, doubling of the price here all of a sudden. After that we have slow decline. We went very low to less than 9,000 ISK, and now here we're slowly creeping back up 11-12k. So I think I still haven't sold my Morphite. I'll need to check that in Cheetah, but yeah, buyers are up to 10,000 almost, 9,986, sellers 11,173. There is some hesitation, but you can see that there is definitely pretty strong demand here. We're going up in price for Morphite slowly. For the sellers, we're well above 10k. 10k was the trigger price for if Prosper to say, you know what, you definitely should start buying. And once again, he's confirming that it's absolutely right. We already have 10% increase in price on everything that you bought below 10k, and you had buy opportunities for less than 9,000 ISK as well, which would have been incredible investments. Of course, at the time, it's not just at the time, it's always the question, do you want to use the ISK for something in game, or do you want to use the ISK to be ready for a better opportunity later on? At the moment, I'm looking at plex myself. Or do you want to risk your wallet right now on an investment that looks good, but that always remains a gamble? Here in Morphite, why was it considered a bit of a gamble for me to keep purchasing at less than 10,000 ISK? Because you can see that we have been declining steadily since June for, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months straight. You know, to see a 6-month chart or even a 1-year chart like this, and then to decide, yeah, I'm going to buy on this downtrend here, it feels very risky, but it turns out that it's the right thing to do very often. So there you go. Minerals, pretty interesting situation. I do hope for a bit of a comeback for titanium and pyrite. On the other hand, as we'll see in a moment, that also will mean that we're in very cheap Tech 1 ship territory. Next up, PI. Let's start with that. 2410. Okay, definitely a long one this time. Here are the construction blocks. What this 1-year chart shows much more clearly is that we're right on the average price. We start a bit above that and we go a bit below that. Very strong summer and fall as well, up to November. Ascension expansion decline, and here new regular price of probably around 12k, something like that, which is average. So it's okay to sell your construction blocks at the moment. 11,777, 10,353 for the buyers. Pretty wide margin here, but yeah, it's okay to be selling at the moment. You're just not getting the right price. If you want to hold off for a better price, you could do that as well. The question is, here we have a very strong summer on lower activity in the game, but we remained pretty strong on increased activity in fall, and then we declined for Ascension expansion. What's behind this? It's quite difficult to say exactly, but I like this market because it is a bit volatile. It does its own thing, and even within the PI market you have different goods that behave differently. So quite often you can still find a buy opportunity or a sell opportunity at the same time within the PI market, which makes it really interesting. I'm very happy that I added this one to the EVTalk, to the roster. So here we go, consumer electronics, very interesting chart as well. Starts at 10k, ends at a little bit above that, so not the best buy opportunity, but you can see on the dips here, you can also see on the volume responses, whenever we break this line here, that people are saying, you know what, we should be buying the consumer electronics that dip below this price range, and we're toying with that on several days as well. So you can see here, consumer electronics, very strong summer as well, but the decline here, we're below average. You should put the average at maybe 12.5k. We're below that, and on the right, buy opportunity close to 10k. It's okay to be buying consumer electronics, and selling, well, if you want to see a comeback, then you want to hold off from actually selling your consumer electronics, especially at 10,595. It's only one order, so let's say 11,778 is quite a bit closer to the average of 12.5k, but the buyers are at 10,500, and if those top 4 buy opportunity orders here drop out, you're at less than 10k, that's when your median daily price is going to come much closer to the bottom prices, and as a result that means that watch out for those 4 to drop, then try to pick up your own consumer electronics for less than 10k, and then you're in a good spot to make some ISK on that, on those purchases. And right now you can see that we're testing that on several days, so it's up to you, but consumer electronics look to be in the right spot, or very close to the right spot, if they continue to be under pressure to buy. Next up here we've got coolants. Let's take a look at that chart. Yeah, coolants, you know, average 11.25. Yeah, I'd say that looks alright on this 1 year chart. You got a bit of a dip below, which is quite sharp, towards 7,500 ISK. This is quite a margin here, double the price all of a sudden. High of 15k, so there you go, 15k in 5 months, 100% profit in 4 or 5 months, not bad at all. And here now we're trading at a pretty high point, well above average. So for coolants, it's pretty obvious you want to sell at the moment. Almost 15k for the sellers, 12,842 for the buyers. That's when you want to produce this and bring it to the market. Not much else to say. Enriched uranium next. Let's take a look at that. We're probably dipping a little bit below average, or just on the average here. This one, well, decently strong summer, 15k, but then stronger fall here with a peak up to 17,500 ISK almost, and then now the decline on higher activity. I would say I would read it as that, and here now on average maybe a little bit below that at 13,000 ISK. It's still alright to sell. If you want to hold off, I wouldn't blame you either. It's definitely too early to say that you want to buy enriched uranium, except for buyers are down to 9,000 ISK, which is down here on the chart. From that perspective, the buy orders are interesting in enriched uranium. Not what I expected, but yeah, that's an extremely wide margin of 4,000 ISK between buyers and sellers. I would say look at that. I'm almost tempted to put in a buy order at 9,100 myself of significant volume to see if I can actually pick that up, because it would be below the entire chart. It would just make sense to at least risk that, considering what's happening here and considering the potential highs, which would be doubling your ISK on this one pretty much. Mechanical parts next. Very nice to see the difference, right? Enriched uranium, about average when you want to sell, but the buyers just aren't there, which is a strong indication to again keep an eye on those on that one. Mechanical parts, 1 year high. There we go, up to 13k. So the bottoms are around 8,000 ISK. 9 to 8,000 ISK there is the lower end range of the trade price. So you might want to keep an eye on that if you ever want to buy in these mechanical parts. But right now, of course, you want to sell. 13,300 ISK for the sellers, 12,850 ISK pretty much for the buyers. Very high price for mechanical parts. Awesome time to have a couple of barren planets, crank these out and bring them to the market. So this is gas planet, very easy. I have 2 of those. This is barren planets, very easy as well. I have 2 of those too. And that is how, at the moment, I'm probably making really good money every month, much higher than average because of these high prices. Oxygen next. Slowly going back up here at the tail end. That's quite interesting. I would put the price at the normal price. 450 to 500 seems to be a normal trade range. There's really not that much to say again, except again, really strong summer for oxygen. But it's of course only a processed platter material, so it's just raw material to processed, which means that it's so available, so easy to produce, that the swings are bound to be quite a bit less sharp here. Still, it's related to fuel, so I like it being here because it's related to fuel blocks. So if you would see that crater down quite substantially, then you might want to look at fuel prices. If you see those go down substantially as well, it's normal. But if you see those at very high prices, then you can probably produce more cheaply and sell them at a good profit. So all of that ties into fuels very often. Robotics, let's see how I would read this 1 year chart here. Again, very strong summer with a high point up to 110,000 ISK here, or even more than that average here. Yeah, it's not showing me the full detail, but definitely a very strong summer. Quite a bit of volatility before that. That's quite interesting. Starting at 80k, peak to 110, back down to 80k, then here up here, and we're ending at almost 100,000 ISK. I would put that at above average. Honestly, if you look at the first part of the chart, I wouldn't be surprised to see 90 to 95,000 ISK as being the actual average price for robotics. We're currently selling for more than 100,000 ISK. Bars are at 98,000 ISK as well, which is above the average that I would put it at. So great time to sell robotics. Rocket fuel next. Is this chart going to be a bit more interesting? I got a comment on last week's episode that, well, rocket fuel is so boring. Switch it to something else. Let's give it a chance on the 1 year chart. What I can see is again that the daily averages are just all over the place. I still wonder if it's a bit of a bug or if it's just indeed a very boring chart, because this also only goes from 10,000 to 13,000 ISK as the trade range. It's rather narrow compared to something like the coolants, which goes from 7,500 to 15,000. So yeah, rocket fuel is much more stable and boring. What I can see here at tail end is that we do have a bit of a sharp increase in price. Sellers, well, yeah, we're out of sellers. 13,300 ISK, definitely a sell opportunity for rocket fuels. Bars are at 11,800 ISK, which is at the high end of the trade range here as well, upper half, I would say. So at the moment, rocket fuel is looking pretty good, but it is true that it doesn't swing all that much. I'm still tempted to keep it in because it's a strong indicator of general PI activity then, in my opinion. If something that is very stable is trading at the lower end of the range, which we have here March to May, look for buy opportunities. If something that is very stable is trading at the higher end of the range, which it is at the moment, I would say that would indicate that we're possibly in good territory to sell a lot of them, and that seems to be working out for coolants, mechanical parts, for instance, at the moment. So I think I want to keep this one in just as a bit of a barometer on general PI activity and prices. Self-harmonizing power cores next. On this 1 year chart, very visibly you have the spike up to the Citadel expansion, so you need these to produce the structures. Then here we have the double top here a little bit for the engineering complex, the Ascension expansion, but you can always see the pressure showing back up after the actual launch. And so will we go back to 2 million? It'll maybe take a few months, and but if in the next few months CCP doesn't launch the next set of structures, which should be the drilling platforms, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kept all of that for after FanFest so that they could announce a bit more stuff, show off the drilling platforms, you know, plan those for maybe May or something like that. You know, take the next few months to fix the rubber banding, fix some bugs. Don't go with too heavily impacting features. Give us nice announcements for FanFest, and then you know, get some extra stuff there as well that we can look forward to throughout the summer to keep activity high there. I would say that that looks like a pretty good choice to make, and as a result of, unfortunately for self-harmonizing power cores, if that's what effectively happens, up to FanFest, up to April, you should expect this to continue to be under pressure. Superconductors next, another one that I'm producing. Okay, we have a peak here in June, pretty weak summer, which is not the same as the other ones. Here again, probably Citadel expansion. Here again, engineering complexes. And so under pressure, you're a bit late to sell superconductors at the best possible price. Still 14,400 is not bad. Sell buyers are at 13,100. So we're above average. We have pretty high volumes on the engineering complexes, but it is going to be under pressure from this point on, I think. So if you want to sell, do so now. Don't waste too much time on the superconductors, which I have 2 planets of as well. Test cultures next, very interesting one. Compare that to the rocket fuels, which is a very small range and pretty narrow band. Here are the test cultures, swinging from 17,500 all the way down to like 6,500, yeah, and doing so 1, 2, 3 peaks in a matter of 1 year, and always diving down pretty sharply as well. That's quite surprising. So 7,000 by opportunity, 16,000 maybe sell. Let's say 15,000, just to give you guys a little bit of 7,500 buy opportunity, 15,000 sell opportunity, and just look at the wide swings here. That's pretty crazy. Currently selling for 9,700, pretty average. Buyers 8,600, pretty average as well, probably, but on the way down. So look out to see if this can actually continue to go down. 7,500, you definitely want to buy these, but this one is very interesting in its volatility. It's different from most of the other charts, because if you would say that this is Citadel related, I would say no, that would be here in May and a bit early May. So I don't see this as being Citadel related all that much. And then here with Ascension, here in November, all the other ones that are related structures are already going down. This one is peaking a month later, so this is definitely its own market, and one that is a bit counter to most of the other ones. And then finally we have wetware mainframes, very similar of course to the power cores, with the peak for Citadels, then secondary peak that is much lower for the Ascension expansion, and now here the slow pressure down, which well, we would still have to go to 2 million to get back towards bottom prices. Currently selling for, fetch me those orders please, 2.8 million, and buyers at 2.6 million. So I think that there's still room for this to go down, and we have 1 hour left for the rest of Eve Talk. Oh man, I've been going quite long here, but all right, that was PI. Let's move on to some Tech 1 chips at 3810. There we go. So here is the Caracal. You can see the stability. You can also see that since the Ascension expansion and before that as well throughout the summer, as minerals were under pressure, these prices came under pressure a little bit as well. And now with the Ascension expansion and the lower minerals, we went down quite substantially. Here at the tail end, a bit of hesitation, but Caracals are still selling for 10.5 million, buyers are at 9.3 million, which is pretty damn low, which is normal on the current low mineral prices. Volumes could be interesting as well. Here is World War B, so much higher volumes on higher activity. Here is the Ascension expansion, higher volumes. The question is going to be, in the upcoming months, will these volumes remain high or not? I actually like this again for it. It's much easier to see a bit of perspective on volumes as well on this 1 year chart. And here you can see Ascension expansion has increased the use of Caracals from the market volume perspective, and so it's going to be interesting to see if it can actually keep this up. Next up here we have the Coercer. Alright, very, let's see, interesting spike here, up to 2 million from, let's say, a bit above a million as an average price. Here we have a sharp drop off, a bit of volatility on, I would say, some anomalous data points here, to be honest, during or right after the Ascension expansion, but now we're dropping off to really low territory. Sellers 1.1 million, buyers are at 1 million. There's no reason to have an average below 1 million here, not really see it. So this is a little bit strange on this chart, but I would say I see a bit of a volume increase since the Ascension expansion. The question again is going to be, are we going to be able to keep that up in the upcoming months? The Dominics next. God damn it, yeah, that's going to be really bad. So let's see if we can get the chart going like this. Pretty stable summer and first part of the year at around 200 million. And then here at the Ascension expansion, you can see the decrease in price under pressure from minerals and going to the new averages, just basically meandering. We're probably at a higher end at the moment. Sellers are at 179 million, buyers are at 166. We've been lower than that. Supply is not that great, only 2 sell orders in the last 24 hours. So that's Dominic's here. It's normal that the bigger ships, like the battleships, follow the mineral market more closely because they need more minerals than something like a frigate, of course. So here you have this decline since the Ascension expansion together with the high-sec minerals as well. The Merlin next, that's a frigate though, so this one is apparently, that is interesting. Doing this one from the 1-year chart perspective now, what I can see is that you can have higher price spikes on higher volumes here. Here again, Ascension expansion, bit more activity and a price spike on higher volumes, declining here in the tail end. So we'll see if these volumes keep declining as well. Except for this spike, it seems to be happening. So this is quite interesting. Small ships like the frigates, of course, much less impacted by the mineral changes because, well, you tend to have much bigger stocks than just a few frigates, and so you can always keep making those even on minerals that you've purchased like a year ago. As a result, though, it seems that these prices are much more tied to the actual usage and to the volumes that we're seeing on the market. So Merlin, yeah, higher volumes right after the Ascension expansion meant higher prices. Now at the tail end, we look to be declining quite substantially. A Merlin is selling for 331,000 ISK. Buyers are at 230,000 ISK, very cheap, and you can see that in the last 24 hours there's still more than 2,000 Merlins coming in, which is quite substantial. Oracle next, that's a battle cruiser, so that is going to be a bit more in line with the battleships, a bit more volatile as well. You can see here trade range of 77 million up to 93 million and hovering in between that, but at the Ascension expansion you can clearly see that we're starting to trade in a new much lower range of volumes. Not that great because of course oracles can't be flown by alpha clones. Raven next, making a bit of a comeback after dipping to a 1-year low close to 150 million. So it's good to see it come back. I don't think we'll see 190 just yet, but it's good to see trade ranges closer to 180 for this one, 172 actually, to 167 for the buyers. So where is this? Yeah, should be above 175 though. So do we have fresh ones coming in? Yes, we do. Indeed, we do have fresh ones coming in that are starting to fill the gap from 180 to 172. So this is going to stop going up. This is actually going to go back down a little bit, but at least a little bit of a recovery in the Raven in the last few weeks. Next up here, we've got the Thrasher. Volume on a spike. Here, maybe a bit volume on a spike. It's hard to say really. But yeah, Thrasher is only a destroyer. Very hard to tell exactly what's happening here. Pretty damn stable though, 1.25 million. We're a bit below that at the moment, which I think is due to the mineral prices. 1 million basically for the Thrasher and 950,000 for the buyers here. So not much to say. I would think that the Thrasher can be used effectively in ganking, so sometimes you'll have these volume spikes creating a buy opportunity, but it's right in line with the general Tech 1 market situation. We have low mineral prices, so Thrashers are selling for a bit less than average at the moment. Tornado next, very similar here, a bit more spiky behavior, because it is potentially a gang ship as well, and it's a battle cruiser, a tier 3 battle cruiser, one of the newer ones. So 88 million at the top range and 69 million at the bottom range. You know, that's quite a decently wide range for a Tech 1 ship. But after that, since the Ascension expansion here, we've definitely stabilized at the lower end of this, 71 million, and then going down substantially in December, all of a sudden recovering just a little bit. I think people were basically seeing all of those cheap minerals and dumping their tornadoes because they were seeing that as a calculated profit on the current prices, and now here we at least recovered a little bit. But I think we're in for lower trade range as long as the base high-sec minerals, titanium pyrite and isogen, Mexilon has already done it, but as long as those stay at their 1-year lows, I think we're at a lower trade range for the bigger ships here. 66 million for the sellers of tornadoes. Tristan next. Very hard to tell anything from this chart, to be honest. We get a couple spikes, we don't have major volume increases on those. On average 500,000 ISK, we're right back at that again. You do see the decrease in price on the mineral changes at the Ascension expansion. I would have thought higher activity with the alpha clones would be visible here, but it's more speculation before the Ascension expansion that drove the price up, and then a decline on the mineral changes. So I think maybe fewer people choose Galente than I thought they would. The Venture next. Clearly at a 1-year low still, so this is going to be the double whammy here. You had the Ascension expansion did increase activity up to 400,000 ISK, but then we have the mineral changes, the mineral prices going down, so those went down as well. Then we had all the gifts coming, which included ventures, so we have a bit of a double dip here. 1-year low price at the moment, 202,000 for the buyers, 180,000 for the sellers. It's not a great investment, I don't think. You need to buy a lot of ventures and you'll need a lot of patience in order to actually make a lot of money on this one. But yeah, it's a 1-year low Tech 1 ship though. Here is the Vexor next, went also pretty low on decreasing mineral prices, jumped back up a little bit, but that's going to end right now as well. Currently selling for 10.9 million, buyers are at 9.9 million. Pretty much. So yeah, the Tech 1 market is pretty low at the moment, especially the bigger the ship is, because of the mineral prices at the moment. Next up, Tech 2 ships. 47 minutes. Let's go. Let's take a look at these from a 1-year perspective. So this is before the Ascension expansion up to April. You can still see a nice little spike here on the Aries, going from 20 million up to 31 million. That's really good. But since the the Citadel expansion, with the changes to taxes, of course, we had much more stability. At least at the tail end here, you do have a little bit more volatility starting to show up from 21 to 23 million. Here, spike up to 24 million. Maybe from the buyers to the sellers, you might have slight opportunities in these. It's still not what I'd like to see on this 1-year chart, but at least it's slightly more spiky behavior is starting to be seen. Here the claw showing that quite nicely. So here you still have an April spike, which was World War B, of course. Then you had the very stable period because of the new taxes, but it's starting to come back alive here. Claw spike on not even that much volume, from, let's take a look at that, 20 million up to 30 million. Here again, down to 22 million, pretty much up to 30 million again on much bigger volumes, of course. So claws used a lot apparently in nullsec interceptor fleets, and so here you had an awesome opportunity. We're already back down to 22.7 million right now. Buyers are 21.6. Hold on a little bit, but if you can buy claws for less than 20 million and hopefully we still see some volatility, then you know you could potentially make some trades in this. The Crow next. Here we have an October spike, so that's good to see again. World War B, October spike, and then here that was a slight opportunity. I think 23 to 27 million. You could make some money on that. So good to see some volatility come back in these interceptors. Here again the Aries, which is an interdictor actually. This probably a normal data point, to be honest. We should not count this one. So here April activity, World War B. And then in June, a bit of a drop off. Can't really make a lot of money on this one, to be honest. So let's hope for a big war in nullsec. Like a really big one. Next up, the flycatcher. Let's take a look at that chart. Again, interdictor. Yeah, I was thinking, you know, it's destroyers. These should get lost a lot, but nope, I'm not seeing where you're gonna trade on these. Heretic next. That's a lot better. Look at that. Bottom prices before or just at the Citadel expansion was around 43 million. Lovely spike up to 59, back down to 45. So yeah, 45 at the very bottom. That's definitely a price to look out for, but now we're in sell order territory. Heretics selling for almost 59 million, buyers are at 52 million, 45 for a bottom. Definitely really good to be trading on this, and good to see some volatility, some switching up here in a single interdictor. Next up, we've got the Hound Stealth Bomber. That's a lot better. Again, the pattern I think is pretty clear, right? Look at that volatility. That's where you make trades. This is World War B. This is before World War B. You can still have trades from 19 million up to 25 million here, 26 million, 27 million even here. That's where you make trade money. Then Citadel taxes come in, just completely destroyed all the volatility. It's good to see it come back here. So here 21 up to 20, almost 30 million, and here again back down, working its way back down again. So slightly higher range. 20 million seem to be a bottom price. Buyers are at 21 million, so you may need to wait a little bit or gamble 21 to up. But yeah, good to see volatility in the Hound back like before the Citadel expansion. Malediction next, another interceptor. Good to see another spike here on higher volumes as well. So that was a great opportunity. Bit worrying was the slow increase in price here, but let's hope that volatility can catch back up and that we can quickly go back to a trade range of below 21 million. On the buyer side of things, should be possible to pick them up close to 20 million. That's of course when trading starts to happen once again. But yeah, good to see a little bit of volatility come back here. Manticore next. It's not as visible, but again here pre-Citadel expansion, the taxes cutting down on all volatility, and here at the end showing back up a little bit on some volumes, on some losses, on some usage. Bring on the Nullsec war, I would say. Nemesis again, you know, it's the same pattern. Volatility up to April, World War B, taxes come in, it's gone. Finally, we're starting to see some volatility. This is really good, right? 20 million. You could probably have bought some at 20 million at this time here, November. Then here, price back up to 32 million, 28 billion. That's where you make some money on this. Look at the volume spike, very nice. Purifier next here, again, right? World War B. It tried, Purifier really tried, but then here slumped down to 18.5 million. Was a buy opportunity. I wasn't about to tell you in September to buy, because if you look at all the other charts here before September, that's not where you're gonna make money, but volatility is coming back, and yeah, the bottoms seem to be a little bit higher than before, but at least you can do 21.5 million up to let's see, 29 million. There you go. That's where you make some money. Good to see. Good to see. Saber working on a spike right now. So if you have some Sabers, I think it's a time to try to sell. I would look for buy opportunities around here, 47, 46 million. Currently 62.5 million. So some interdictors are alive. It does definitely seem to be the Saber and the Heretic that are far more popular. Buyers are at 59.7 million for Sabers, considering that you could have bought in November some Sabers at 47 million. Good to see volatility come back. All right, the 1 year chart giving us perspective and giving us hope for the Tech 2 market. But I'm gonna stick to the small ships, to be honest. That's, I think, the most accessible for most people, has the higher volumes, and is the most likely to not completely cause irrecuperable losses that will really hurt the wallet. Next up, Tech 3 at 53.45. All right, making back a little bit of time on the ships here. Let's start with the tactical destroyer. Here is the Confessor market going to a 1 year low. This is due to nerfs, keep that in mind, but it's still Confessors selling for 31 million, and with 316 coming in as the latest sell order, and buyers are almost non-existent at 27.6 million. So it's up to you to decide. I understand it's a bit of a gamble on the nerves, but yeah, you are at a 1 year low. Look at this chart. Next up here we get the Hecti. Definitely a 1 year low, no contest right here. Sellers are at 31.3 million, buyers are at 28 million, and still we have, well, this is a bit timid, but a couple days ago people still dumped hundreds of these destroyers on the market. Here's the Jackdaw, currently, yeah, a bit hesitating to go even lower than its current trade range right there. I think because it is a missile ship that the doctrines might be in. You can see that people are taking their positions though on the higher volumes. People are buying and selling like crazy. Currently sellers are at almost 40 million, buyers are at 34 million. Definitely not as low as the other ones, but if you think at some point that yeah, if the Jackdaw is used, then the Confessor might get used as well, then just look at the difference at the margin. That's plane coming in overhead here. You know, you might want to risk that. It's up to you, of course. And finally here we have the Svepol that's double dipping to a 1 year low of around 31 million on the chart. Maybe even if it has some momentum to break that, look out below, of course, but no buyers, 27 million except for one. And then the sellers here dumping a couple of days ago of hundreds of them again. You know, if you look at these sell orders here, I would be tempted to say that this is going to depress the price to 1 year lows where you should consider buying. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Let's take a look at the cruisers. Next here is the Legion working on a 1 year low situation. Once again, has the Legion been nerfed to hell? I don't think so. Supply here, well, in the last 24 hours not so much, but there's still quite a lot of them, from 142 to 135 million. Buyers at 127, almost non-existent. Again, it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to risk this, but the 1 year chart is indicating that this is a buy opportunity. Here's the Loki. We went to a definite 1 year low where people did start to make their moves, but on the other hand here at the tail end we're still under pressure. Fresh supply, yeah, a little bit. They're still trickling into 129 million, 119 for the buyers. Loki's for less than 130, pretty damn cheap. Proteus next here, playing with the 1 year low, but not quite getting there. Being supported a little bit on volumes, I think, here for the tail end. And sellers are at 143, much more respectable, 133 for the buyers. That puts the Loki into perspective, of course, that this is really low. Same for the Legion. And then finally we have the Tengu chart. You can see here that we were at 1 year lows, I should say, just a few weeks ago. And currently they are selling for 145, buyers are at 130. The one thing to note, I would say, is that Tengu recovered a little bit. Look at the volumes here, 94, 17, 14, 12. People are still dumping these like crazy. Proteus up a little bit, 45, 78, 10 right here. Loki and Legion, definitely not the same. Well, Legion still under pressure quite substantially, but the Loki going for less than 130, coming in much more slowly, much more timidly. So it's an oversupply situation, and it's pretty obvious that wherever a cruiser does a little bit better, that supply moves to that, like hungry sharks trying to sell a little bit of their stocks for a little bit of money. It's up to you to decide, if you look at this entire chart, if you want to start stocking up on some Tech 3 ships. Again, when I say stuff like that, don't take it for granted, and definitely don't put all your money into any one of these products. But honestly, I would look into maybe diversifying some of the ISK into some Tech 3 ships, because on a big war, on big activity, on possibly a change for these Tech 3 ships as well, this could have a pretty major impact and could make you quite a bit of ISK. And next up we have the extra product 5830. I have integrated response drone as a request. So let's see, integrated response drone. Let's see if I can find that. That's broken. Integrate response drones, which is advanced planetary materials. It's also, if I'm not mistaken, used in structures. Not entirely sure actually. This spike here is a little bit weird because it's after May, so not the Citadel expansion, but that's quite substantial. So I'm gonna say no, not necessarily structure related. And currently trading at around 3 million. which is a bit above average if we look at the entire 1 year chart, coming off of a high in December, working on a decently strong building summer and fall here. So it's probably going to go down at this point, but it's still okay to try to sell them close to 3 million to 2.8 million for the buyer. So integrity response drones trading a bit above average, but I think that at this point they are bound to go down under pressure because we're coming from this high point. It's what generally tends to happen. So that's the request, and the ones that I want to check are the faction cruisers. So let's start with the Navy factions and let's just go over these charts to see if we can spot some trends or some opportunities. Augur Navy issue definitely coming from a pretty low price range of 41 million. Buyers are at 45 though, so we're a bit late for buying Augur Navy issues. Should have maybe done that last week, but that was a slight opportunity. And look at that, 45 million is definitely the low trade range for the Augur Navy issue. Caracal Navy issue, that's a 1 year low. Look at that, that's really pretty damn low. 55 million for the sellers, 48 million for the buyers. Yeah, if you're looking to invest in something, then maybe Caracal Navy issues could be something to look forward to. Definitely not short term, but medium to long term. I think these are highly tied to faction warfare, then this could be pretty interesting. Next up, Executor Navy issue. Let's take a look at that. If the chart wants to load, sell opportunity for those, really awesome. So it's Galente, Galdari at a low, probably doing really well in their faction warfare. Galente getting their ass handed to them, but they can sell their Executor's Navy issues for a really good price. Omen Navy issue apparently winning out as well in that's how I'm reading it. If I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments. But probably getting a lot of loyalty points at the moment for doing really well in faction warfare. So these are building up to a buy opportunity as well. Osprey, same one. Caldari, pretty low. Sight is going to be Minmatar, really high. Time to sell those. Stabbers, yeah, hesitating. So I'm not exactly sure. Vexor Navy issue. Definitely at a high point. That was a great opportunity if we'd bought at the bottom. So there you go. I would say, yeah, Caracal Navy issue, very interesting. Bottom price at the moment. And if the Galente faction warfare can turn that around, that could be something that will eventually turn into the Vexor Navy issue sell opportunity that we're seeing right here. So this is another market that I may want to check a bit more often, because if I'm not mistaken, very strongly tied to what's happening in faction warfare. Next up, we've got the pirate faction cruisers. Ashimu, basically 1 year low, easy to buy, but I don't think it's considered that great a ship, so I wouldn't buy all that many of them. Cinnabal could be more interesting, definitely a great exploration ship. It's the sell order territory at the moment, so here selling for 160 million, you had a buy opportunity at 110. Nice 50% profit right there almost. Ortrus, going on average, but definitely okay. Yeah, basically average. I would put this one at an average price. I wouldn't buy or sell these at the moment. Buy opportunity is over, unfortunately, which was throughout the summer. Phantasm going to 1 year low, quite interesting. So you could buy a couple of Phantasms and risk that gamble. Stratios, after the very weak summer, buy opportunity at, let's take a look at these prices, 180. You had a sell opportunity at 230, but now we're already going back down once again. Gila next. Some volatility, but I think we're below average, or just around average actually, 220 at the moment. So we're coming off of a sell opportunity. The buy opportunity was February last year at 180. You could sell these here for 280, currently 220. Yeah, that's around average. And finally, we have the Vigilant at a pretty high price range at the moment, sellable for sure. So there you go, guys. Maybe a bit rushed at the tail end, but I don't want to go too much over 1 hour. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.